Okay, so I drove by some schools today, like high school, grade schools, and they were actually open. And it was interesting because I didn't see anybody wearing a mask, like around their neck or anything outside. So I guess they're not making people wear masks inside the classrooms. That is really, really scary. That is truly scary. But now not all schools are open. It's just some across the United States. Not everything's open because some of them opened the first week and closed because people got sick. So I just don't know how well that's gonna go. But in the Fort Walton area, there is business. There is, because there's so much tourism. Some of it left this last week, but there's still a ton of people. And they're idiots. They won't wear masks and they don't do social distancing. They figure since they left their place where everybody's dying, they just come here and be jerks. Really scary. But, dude, if you're gonna turn right, damn, you're supposed to look when I have the right of way. But anyway, it's 88 degrees today. I'm in Mariester, Florida today. Traffic's not too terrible. It was earlier though. It was kind of crappy, but I mean, it's not like California traffic where you sit and need to read a book because you're sitting there parked in the street. But it's not like that today. These tourists, this girl right behind me, she's just all over the phone instead of paying attention to the car or the road. That is so creepy. It only takes a second to look down. There's a guy recently that drove right off a road into the water, looking down for 1 second at his phone over text, and it submerged his beamer. Yep, not good. But anyway, the restaurants are doing very, very well, especially with App Gig. They're tearing it up because a lot of people are not coming out. Some restaurants are open inside, but some restaurants have bars. And trust me, there's not a lot of social distancing, unfortunately, because these places are getting slammed at dinner time, not lunch, but dinner. And there are a million cars parked outside, and those people are sitting inside eating, so they're loading them up because nobody's looking, right? And they're wall to wall. Now, some of the bars have reopened a little bit, and then they closed them back down, and I don't know what's going on this week, but kind of in this area, that some of them decided to serve food, since the restaurants that serve liquor could be open, and you go in there and it's like a Saturday night. So they decided if they served food, then they could open like the restaurants do, I guess. But I don't think they're making a ton of money. I know a lot of showgirls that have found other jobs because they tried to open the clubs a couple times since March and would open for 2 days or a week and get shut right back down. They're kind of over it. So they decided to go get a real job and do that for now, because there's going to be more money if you go to work. So now that Florida, no eviction rating thing expired on June 1st. I believe it was June 1st. June or July 1st. And so a lot of people got evicted, and some people got evicted under the table because it was only pertaining to like corporate stuff, like apartment buildings that are owned by corporate and all that. So independent owners were like under the table evicting people, and people couldn't do much about it. And then Governor DeSantis reinstated the moratorium to stop eviction, but that's only for people that did not pay rent. That is not for people that paid rent. And then now Trump has put in a thing where no one gets evicted. And I'm not sure exactly if that's for people that, you know, have not paid rent or how that goes. But he does have a statement in there. He doesn't want people to go homeless because it would bring up the rate of corona. Because if they had to stay in like a mission or something like that, they'd be close range with other people, and it would spread the virus and kill people. And then the state's going to fine landlords for evicting people. If they get sick from it or they die from it, they get fined huge money if it was their fault because they evicted them. So I don't know, but it gets better by the minute. But basically, I do know the last eviction moratorium for the sickness only covered people that did not pay rent and were living in like a corporate owned and not private owned property. Yeah, pretty weird. It's sad they didn't get all the figures in totally when they put that in motion, because I know a lot of people that have gotten evicted since March for non-payment. Now remember, you know, a lot of people thought that, okay, well, we can't get evicted, so the government will pay rent. No, that's not true. They did have some programs for landlords to file to try to recoup their rent from the government grants or whatever, but landlords had to decide if they wanted to do that, and a lot of it was for the commercial landlords that have like apartment buildings and stuff. It wasn't for the independents that own a house or a couple, you know, townhouses or whatever. You know, it wasn't for that. So, that's how that goes. If you didn't pay rent, you'd be behind. But you're liable for that rent. It's not, when the government says, okay, they can't evict you, remember, you are liable for that rent. All of that back rent. And when it's lifted, like it was in June or July, then what happens is you owe all that rent, all those thousands of dollars. So make sure you understand that. It's just like the utilities, when they had a lockdown on that and couldn't shut them down, you owe all those utilities. And now, you know, when the lockdown stopped on, I think it was June 1st, then what happens is they immediately want all their money. It's not free. The government didn't write it off. You owe it. So that's where people are getting caught, because they think, oh, I got all that free rent since March and all those free utilities since March, so I'm cool. No, you're not, because you owe it. Now, even in the new moratorium, I do know this about the Trump one. If you're still back rent on this new one, and you go through December, and you come out where you owe like $14,000, whatever, you owe. When it ends, you owe. And that will ruin you, because they'll evict you. It's on your record, and you better know where you're going to find that money, because you owe. It is not free, and you're going to have a terrible time trying to rent. No lie. That's a fact. So I'm just telling you in advance, that's the deal. And you should be aware of it. There's no free utilities, no free rent. I'm just telling you, you still owe it. They're just trying to keep from putting people on the street. But trust me, no guarantees. They do some shady stuff. Whatever they can get through the courts or the sheriffs, they do some shady darn stuff. So, I just want you to know that. Now, real estate's starting to go up a little bit, and because it was at a zero during the sickness, or nobody had any money to buy unless they were filthy rich, now there's people that have money to buy. And all the people that got evicted June 1st and all that, these landlords are so far behind, they're forced to sell that rental property to save their own houses that they live in. So they're selling. They don't want crap to do with it. They're selling it to try to get back ahead again, because they've been behind on their rent since March, so they could get those people out. So they got to sacrifice and sell. There's a lot of houses for sale in Florida. I know that for a fact. I was down just one street over here a week ago, and every third house was up for sale. And people are snatching them up, okay? So, you know, the people that could get people out, they're selling. Now, the market is sellable now, so you can get a better price than you could back in March. You know, because you couldn't sell it in March. So you can get the price you wanted that you had back in March. You can sell it now. I guess people are buying them up left and right. And to include that within the last week in the Fort Walton area, the rent has gone up. So if you rented, you were darn lucky, because the rent is going up daily. There's like, the rent is going like $1,300 and up now, when it was like $600 to $900 in this area. It's like $1,300 if you want to try to catch something now. All that cheap stuff's gone. There is no more cheap stuff. You better pray that your lease is long, because as soon as your lease ends, they're going to raise it if this keeps going. I talked to a very nice young man today at the Walmart gas station, and he said he left Miami like a week ago to come up here and live with his brother, because everything was nothing less than $1,800 for the smallest place, and he just couldn't do it. It was just too much for him. And his brother said, just come up here. Well, his brother had rented about a year ago, he said. And I said, oh God, he better watch it, because when it comes to renewal, they might get goofy, or might throw them out so they could sell it, because everybody's wanting to sell out. They're just done. So it's where, well, the rich people are going to benefit here. It's that sickness ruined the economy. So the poor people got poorer, and the middle income people are getting poor, and the only ones that are surviving are the rich. That's pretty sad. That is really sad. We're going to end up with so many homeless. It is horrible sad, and that's the last thing Trump wants. It was written in this order that came out a day or two ago to stop eviction. And again, I'm not sure if that covers only if you didn't pay rent, or if it covers everybody. But there's a statement in there that says he does not want people evicted, so they have to go to public housing or be homeless, so that it will encourage the spread of the sickness, especially if you're in a place with like 30 people in there, because everybody's homeless. Now, good luck with a homeless shelter, because I'm going to tell you, the homeless shelter in Fort Walton, I mean, not the homeless shelter in Fort Walton, but the low-income apartments in Fort Walton are booked out for the next 4 months, a list for 4 months. So, and that list could last a year or two even to get in. But they're booked out 4 months at this time. So, that makes it interesting. I decided to let you know that. So, Trump's order goes to like December for the non-eviction, but I'm not sure exactly how that affects everybody or parts of stuff, whether it affects people that paid rent or people that didn't pay rent. But that's what that is. So, it's interesting, but they have to serve you, whether they're doing you 15-day or 30-day or whatever they're doing to try to get you out for whatever reason, end of lease, any of that. They have to serve you proper, because they can't even file it in the courthouse with proof of service. They have to have that in the court clerk's office. So that's how that name of that tune goes, okay? That's the name of that tune. Some nice little metal buildings right there. A lot of people are getting those to live in. It's really interesting. Getting those little storage buildings, living in them. I talked to a guy today, and he has a storage unit for his work stuff. And he does, I don't know what. I don't know if it's construction or he's doing landscape or what. But he said he's living in a place he didn't want to mention because he has got his camper put there, and he doesn't have to pay any rent at all. And he's staying there, and he's been there for like 3 or 4 months. And he said he's happy as hell. He pays his little bit of storage to store his tools at that place, and then he's somewhere else staying in his little camper. And he has a nice truck too. And actually it's worked out fine for him. He's like, you know, they can't evict me. I can pick it up and roll anytime. And I'm good. My tools are safe at this place, and I am good. So that was good news. But he said that was a way to fly because he doesn't pay any rent at all. He owns a little camper. And he still gets to work and all that good stuff, and he doesn't have to worry about being thrown out. And of course, if anybody did say, okay, you gotta go, then I am sure that he would just pick that thing up and roll it somewhere else. Now, you can get a membership for 1,000 Trails. You can get a cheap one or expensive one. I know this house, the guy from Georgia used to have it, but it's like different cars are here every time I go by here. What a black dude rented that. He went back to Georgia. But, yeah. It's pretty interesting. Oh, that's absolutely beautiful. That looks like my lamp I had. That is beautiful. Little mermaid in concrete. Here's a house for sale right here. That's like a 1950s house. Matter of fact, that sucker's cinder block. They used to build a lot of those cinder block down here back for the 70s and 80s. And they're still here. I've had a friend of mine, Nita, she had one, and the roof rotted off, basically the eaves and stuff. And because it was so old. But it's still standing all these years later till they tore it down and built some condos, townhouses over there, so because she lost it. And these brick houses, you don't know if they're faced with brick or they're built with brick. That's that trick. This is a very nice area, but this price, the square foot rate in this side of town is like 130 or 150 a square foot. Where if you go over by the golf course, it's like $235 a square foot. Which, this is a beautiful area right here. This is Fort Walton side. Well, anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. You have a great one.